History, for all its grand scope, it often comes to us through a filter, a lens that's been polished by centuries of shifting borders, empire building, and just changing demographics. We think we know what we're looking at when we gaze back, but sometimes that image is, well, it's profoundly distorted. So let's just get right into this. For you, listening right now, when you picture the original Arabs, I mean, the people who first received the Quran, the companions of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, what image actually springs to mind?
And it's an important question because that default image is, it's very often influenced by modern geopolitics.
Right, by what the Arab world looks like today.
Exactly. But when we look at the core source material, the foundational biographies, the histories, we start to see something, well, something quite different. The visual assumptions we hold are often just anachronistic projections.
Exactly. And that's our mission for this deep dive. We are going into those classical Arabic texts, the biographies known as the Siyar. The history is called the Tariq. We're blowing the dust off these ancient accounts because they reveal a much richer and, frankly, a very, very different picture than our modern assumptions allow for.
And that's the whole point. This is about correcting a fragmented heritage. It's about challenging this pervasive influence of modern colorism by just going back to what the primary documents actually say.
So this isn't just trivia.
Not at all. The physical identity of that earliest community, the people of the Hijaz in the 7th century, is something the sources describe pretty explicitly. It's critical for understanding the DNA of the faith itself.
And to really understand what they look like, we have to start with language. That seems to be the first barrier, right?
That's the absolute key.
Because the way color was described back then in the 7th century is just fundamentally different from how we use those terms today.
Completely different. What black or red meant to a desert Arab 1,400 years ago is not what it means to us now, especially in English.
So where do we start with that? Is there a key piece of evidence?
There is. There's a really profound narration that's recorded by Al-Hakim, and it concerns a dream the prophet, peace be upon him, had. In the dream, he described seeing a flock of black sheep, and then following them was a much larger flock of white sheep.
Okay, so on the surface, that sounds like, I don't know, a simple prophecy about population growth or something.
You'd think so. But the interpretation, which was given by his closest companion, Abu Bakr, is where this entire deep dive just turns on its head.
How did he interpret it? What did the sheep mean?
His interpretation was startlingly clear. And it's crucial. He said the black sheep represented the Arabs.
Wait, the black sheep were the Arabs?
Black sheep were the Arabs, the original dark-skinned stock of the Arabian Peninsula, and the white sheep.
Let me guess, the non-Arabs.
The non-Arabs. Specifically, he mentioned the Persians and the Romans, who would later embrace Islam and swell the ranks of the community.
So the original community actually defined itself using the color term we associate with darkness. And the outsiders, the people from the great empires, they were the white ones.
Precisely. And what's really critical here is that Abu Bakr's interpretation was reportedly confirmed by subsequent revelation.
Yeah.
So this color coding, it got cemented in the earliest tradition.
So it wasn't just a casual observation.
No, it became an accepted framework. It confirms that the original community, the Sahaba, they recognized and described themselves as a predominantly dark-complected people.
But how reliable is that, though? I mean, was this black for Arabs, white for non-Arabs a consistent thing? Or was it just for this one dream?
It was part of a broader, well-established linguistic distinction. When you dive into the Tariq, the poetry from that era, you find it again and again. The classical Arabs, the people of the Hijaz, routinely referred to themselves as black or dark people. Now, this referred to a whole range of skin tones, from deep brown to dark tan.
The result of living in that environment.
Exactly. Generations under the intense sun of Arabia. And conversely, they used the term Red Ahmar to describe the non-Arab nations who were lighter-skinned.
The red people.
The red people. It was an idiom for the fair-skinned populations, like the Byzantines, the Romans, many of the Persians.
So the binary wasn't black versus white in our modern sense. It was black, dark versus red.
Yes. Adam or Asmar versus Ammar. And this completely shifts the dynamic, doesn't it? Because when the Quran was first revealed, the default image of that faithful community was dark.
That's the takeaway. The core nucleus was a dark-skinned population.
Right. And the lighter-skinned people, the red people, they joined as Islam expanded. And that expansion, that intermarriage over centuries, that's what changed the demographics of what we now call the Arab world. And that's where our modern visual assumption is so different.
Wow. that context it's powerful because if we accept that linguistic foundation, that the original Arabs saw themselves as dark people,
Then you have to re-examine everything.
every biographical description, every famous incident we thought we understood, we've been projecting our own racial lens back onto the 7th century.
And it has just obscured the truth.
Okay, so let's apply this. Let's turn to one of the most famous and frankly difficult stories. The incident between Abu Dhar al-Ghifari and Bilal ibn Rabah.
Hmm.
The common retelling, the one that's so painful, is that Abu Dhar insulted Bilal by calling him the son of a black woman.
And look, that account is painful, and the gravity of the offense is undeniable. The Prophet, peace be upon him, rebuked Abu Dhar so severely. He said he still had some ignorance, some jahiliyyah in him.
Right. And Abu Dhar's remorse was legendary. He put his face on the ground and wouldn't get up until Bilal stepped on it. The condemnation of insulting lineage is undisputed.
Totally undisputed.
But here's the question. If we apply our linguistic deep dive, was the insult really about skin color in the way we'd see it today? A light-skinned person insulting a dark-skinned person.
That's the intellectual tension right there. And the biographical sources, the CR, they actually resolve it for us. They give us the physical description of Abu Dhar himself.
And what did he look like?
The CR describe Abu Dhar as a tall man with white hair, but crucially, he had dark skin. They use the specific term Adam.
So wait, Abu Dhar, the man making the insult, was himself described with the term for dark skin.
Exactly.
So the insult couldn't have been about pigmentation in a general racist way. He shared that basic skin tone with Bilal. What does that tell us?
It tells us two critical things. First, the insult was likely focused on lineage, on tribal status, maybe the fact that Bilal's mother had been a slave, not the mere presence of dark skin.
Okay.
And second, and this is so important for you, the listener, it's a powerful warning. We cannot project our 21st century racial dynamics onto 7th century Arabia. Their cultural hierarchies were about tribe and status, not the kind of colorism that grew out of chattel slavery.
And that word, Adam, that was used for Abu Dhar, what exactly does it mean?
It's a rich term. It describes a complexion that's deep, earthy, dark, often with a hint of red or brown mixed in. It was, characteristic of the people native to the sun-baked Hijaz. It was the common color.
And this wasn't just him and a few others. You're saying many of the most important figures had this same complexion.
Absolutely. The foundational leadership of the faith was not fair-skinned. Umar ibn al-Khattab, the second caliph.
A giant of history.
A giant.
Yeah.
Described as tall, powerful, and dark-complected. Again, sometimes using that term Adam.
Oh.
Ali ibn Abi Talib, the fourth caliph, also described as having a strong build and a complexion tending towards darkness.
So the visual leadership, the very pillars of the early caliphate, were dark-complected people. It completely overturns the visual we have in our heads.
It truly does. It reinforces that the early Muslim community was a diverse mix, but its native foundational element, the Arabs of the peninsula, were dark.
Which brings us to the final and most important part of this.
Why does any of this matter today?
Exactly. Is this just academic revisionism, or does it have a real-world application?
Oh, it has a critical application. For modern identity, for community cohesion, we have to address the current reality.
It's what?
Which is that for many black Muslims around the world, navigating the broader community can be, it can be challenging.
And why is that challenge so persistent?
Because the demographic reality of the Arab world today means lighter skin tones dominate the visual of Arabness. And this creates a deeply ingrained, often subconscious equation in people's minds.
Arabness equals whiteness.
Arabness gets equated with whiteness. And when Arabness is subconsciously linked to the source of the faith, it can breed this quiet, damaging inferiority complex.
A feeling that they're outsiders, latecomers, or somehow less authentic than the founders of the religion just because they don't visually match this modern, lighter-skinned narrative.
Precisely. They're implicitly told again and again that the Salaf, the righteous predecessors, the founding generation, looked nothing like them.
And that's why this history is so important.
It's everything. Rediscovering the actual dark appearance of the Salaf is not about claiming superiority for any shade. It's about profound, instantaneous validation.
It's representation at the deepest possible level. If the biographies state that Umar and Ali and these central companions were described with terms for dark skin,
then belonging for black Muslims is validated in the very DNA of Islamic history.
it shatters that false hierarchy.
It shatters the insidious, false hierarchy that tries to connect piety or heritage to lighter skin tones, a connection that has zero basis in the foundational texts. The early community was dark and diverse. You had dark-skinned Arabs alongside non-Arabs from all over.
Which brings us back to the core message of the faith itself. Islam came to smash the idols of tribalism and racism.
Exactly. The physical reality of the community was a kaleidoscope of colors, all united by character, not by melanin. And the ultimate decree from the Quran itself, from Surah Al-Hujurat.
O mankind, indeed, we have created you from male and female and made you peoples and tribes that you may know one another.
Indeed, the most noble of you in the sight of Allah is the most righteous of you. That's taqwa, God consciousness. That was the unifier. And the historical descriptions prove that the most righteous generation look like the world.
So, for all of us today, acknowledging the true historical appearance of the original Arabs, it's really an act of correcting a whitewashed history. It fosters healing, understanding. It lets us see that early community as a truly diverse brotherhood.
And that leads to the final question for you to think about. If the early Islamic community consciously designed its own ethnic identity using terms we now link with darkness, black sheep for Arabs, Adam for their leaders, what other cultural or historical assumptions might we be unconsciously projecting onto the 7th century just because of centuries of demographic change?
Something to really think about. We encourage you to go seek out the specific classical definitions of terms like Adam and the red people in the original Siyar and Tariq for yourself. History is not static. There's always more complexity and more color than the modern filter lets us see.